Yeah, good morning to all and good evening to Professor Pankaji and the University of Jayewardenepura, especially the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences has set up a green hub to develop the green culture within our university premises. As well, we are promoting the green faith within our university community as well the outside of the world. So for this program, our students as well, the other academics as well the outside community also will join. And first of all, I would like to invite to I think our dean joined for the program to welcome to Professor Shiranta Heenkende, and I'm inviting for you to welcome to our Professor Pankaj.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Asha. Thank you very much, Professor Pankaji, accepting our invitation. Actually, the Faculty of the Humanities and Social Sciences, University of Jayewardenepura, University of Jayewardenepura conducting a green hub through the strengthening of a green culture and the green education through the students and the postgraduate students and the academia. So today's first lecture in this nature. I welcome basically on behalf of the faculty, Dr. Panjat, for accepting our invitation. And in addition, I would like to thank GreenHUB people and the chairman, Dr. Shant Vijay Singh and Dr. Asha, to organizing. Over to you. Please go ahead. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. And now I would like to invite our chair of the Green Hub, Dr. Shant Vijay Singh, just to give an idea about our Green Hub.
Good morning. So thank you, Dr. Asha. First of all, on behalf of the Dean, Shiranta Heenkende, Professor Shiranta Heenkende, and so the all committee members of the Green Hub. So I must be thankful to Professor Pankaj, Jain, Head of Indic Studies, Flame University, Pune, India, for accepting our invitation to share your valuable thoughts and research and academic experience with us. And also, for initiating this kind of session, so I must be thankful to Dr. Asha Fernando as well. So because last time also she organized a nice presentation regarding the environmental ethics. So we recently established the Green Hub with a mission of the committing for inspiring and emerging solutions to support the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences in order to achieve higher level of eco-friendly, sustainable environment, particularly in the university premise, focusing the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. The aim of our Green Hub, that is to establish the innovative teaching and learning process, making university students, academic and non-academic staff into the nature-loving group, working we as a team together for ensuring eco-sustainability practices in the university premise. Thus, we as the Green Hub is responsible to establish appropriate eco-sustainable practices to create a greener environment in the university premise. So in order to achieve our mission and the targets, we have established 6 main projects under the center of the Green Hub. So they are the solid waste management, green building design and implementation, green awareness, environmental ethics and well-being, green corporate social responsibility, that is the CSR aspects of the Green Hub, and finally the green creativity and the innovativeness. So actually Dr. Asha Fernando has organized these several sessions under the theme of environmental ethics and well-being, as she is the coordinator, so the managing this the project titled environmental ethics and well-being. So thank you so much, Dr. Arsha, as well as Professor Pankaj Jain once again. So for sharing your valuable the research and academic experience with us. Now it's over to you. Thank you for joining with us, all participants as well.
And I would like to introduce Professor Pankaj Jain. He's an internationally recognized academic leader in sustainability, Jain studies, film studies, as well the diaspora studies. He's a professor of philosophy and religious studies at the Flame University, Pune, as well. They head in the Indic Studies Initiative in the University of Pune. Earlier, he was the founding co-chair of India Initiative Group and associate professor in the Department of Philosophy and Religion at the University of North Texas. The presently he's again joined there, and he held a PhD from the University of Iowa and MA from the Columbia University. As well, he's an engineering graduate from the University of from the Karnataka University. But even though he started his career with the engineering side, he moved to the religious studies as well for the ecology and the eco-faith studies became his major. And he is currently working on his fourth monography, Modern Jainism, a historical approach. He is also the co-editor in the Encyclopedia of Hinduism and a volume on India and Western philosophical concept in religion. He compares Jain and Hindu history in America for his third monography, Dharma, America Short History of Hindu Jain Diaspora. And he is also the author of the award-winning Dharma and Ecology of Hindu Communities, Sustain and Sustainability. And also Science and Socio-Religious Revolution in India, Move into the Mountain. That was a very interesting book I read in my life. And then those three books are published by the Routledge. His articles have appeared in several academic journals and on the Huffington Post, the Washington Post Forum on Faith, the Times of India Speaking Tree, and Pathos. Professor Jain is widely quoted in various American and India media outlets. In the year of 2020, the New York Times interviewed him, and in 2019, Morgan Freeman interviewed him for the section on Jainism in the National Geographic series, The Story of God. He is a recipient of the Fulbright Nehru Fellowship for Environmental Leadership and a Venner Grain Grant, among many other grants. He was nominated for the Sustainability Leadership Award from the Memon Institute. So, Professor Jain today will explain to us the relation of Dhamma and ethics, and he will give a more reference from the Buddhism and to Mahavira and the Gandhiji too. So, Professor, I'm welcome for you to deliver your lecture.
Thank you very much, Professor Asha. I'm really privileged and honored to be talking to people in Sri Lanka for the first time in my life. I look forward to coming to your beautiful country. I've heard a lot that it's a green and clean country with very tall and huge Buddha statues. And I recently went to Bodh Gaya. Just last month, I was at Bodh Gaya just before the second wave hit in India. I was in India that time. Right now I'm in US, but last month I was in Bodh Gaya, and I was thrilled to see that the Bodhi Vriksh that we have right now in Bodh Gaya in Bihar, where Buddha had received his enlightenment, is actually not the original tree, but it was planted by a sapling that was brought to India from Sri Lanka by a Buddhist monk. So India is in debt of Sri Lanka of preserving Buddha's tree, Bodhi trees, reminiscence, but also Buddha's teachings, Buddha's statues, and Buddhist monasteries and everything, and so many other Buddhist books and so on in Pali language, in Tamil language, in Sinhala language in Sri Lanka. But apparently before Buddhism came to Sri Lanka, Jainism had already made its entrance also in Sri Lanka. Many of the Jain monks, before Buddhist monks went to Sri Lanka, many Jain monks had also come to Sri Lanka. And so we have this ancient connection between the two countries of India and Sri Lanka for thousands of years. Also, another sort of the Indian epic, right? The Ramayana mentions Ravan as coming from Sri Lanka, and they have war and so on. So Ravan is depicted as a villain in Hindu texts, but some Jain texts depict Ravan as one of the future enlightened beings whom Jains will worship. So Hinduism, Buddhism, we know a lot about these two traditions of South Asia, India, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and so on. Buddhism and Hinduism pretty well known, but Jainism is also the third cousin or third sibling of the three ancient traditions of South Asia: Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Buddhism and Jainism are many times kept together because Hindus accept Vedas as the ultimate authority, Brahman as the ultimate authority, but Buddhists and Jains both had rejected Brahman. They had rejected Vedas. The Buddhism even rejects the soul. Jainism does accept the soul. So there are some interesting comparisons and similarities, more similarity between Buddhism and Jainism, and somewhat similar to also Hinduism. So today I want to focus more on Jainism because that's not anymore, that is not as well known in Sri Lanka or even other parts of the world. But Buddhism and Hinduism are pretty well known. So with your permission, let me show you my presentation. And I would like to share my presentation here. Here it is. So the title of the presentation is Dharma and Ecology, which is also the title of my first book, Dharma and Ecology of Hindu Communities, Sustenance and Sustainability. So if we look at, so this is a picture of a Jain temple, not in India, not in Sri Lanka, but in California, in Los Angeles, where so almost more than 100 temples, 100 Jain temples are now available in North America. Almost more than 1,000 Hindu temples are also available, are also built by many Hindu people, Jain people living in North America. Of course, hundreds and hundreds of Buddhist temples are also present, are also built and available in North America. Dalai Lama, the holy Dalai Lama, His Holiness, who is presently in India, in Dharamshala, in North India, in Himalayas, who had to come to India from Tibet when China attacked Tibet, had once mentioned Buddhism and Hinduism as two sisters of ancient South Asia. But I would like to add Jainism also to that mix, so Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. So here is a picture from a Jain temple in California. Now let's see the presentation. So if we look at the issues of the world culture study of world cultures especially from the Western perspective, let me make it bigger. Yeah. Okay. So what is going on from a couple of centuries now is that when Western scholars have studied Eastern or South Asian cultures, such as Max Weber, they portray West as agentic, East as fatalist. That East, everybody is stuck in their fate, they accept their fate, they lack the agency to create their destiny. Similarly, Talcott Patterson says West achieves status by achievement, whereas East status is fixed by birth. So John Stuart Mill says West is, in this way, West is a mature civilization, East is a childlike, immature kind of civilization. So these are the categories that are forced upon Western scholars on Eastern traditions or South Asian traditions, where South Asian traditions are portrayed as fatalist, birth-based tradition, childlike tradition, immature tradition, and so on. So these are the kind of imperialism is not just political imperialism, right? So we have so many parts of South Asia were colonized by European countries, but also there is an imperialism of categories, the intellectual imperialism, the intellectual colonialism that is still going on even after the European powers have left South Asia. So that goes on even in the environmental studies. For example, the World Economic Forum comes up with rankings of environmental performance every year. So in 2018, they put India at 177 as one of the worst performing environmental countries. Environmental performance of India was much, much lower than most other European countries and highly critical of India's environmental performance in 2018 World Economic Forum. So, but from one perspective, I think this can be seen as another imperialism of category where, just the clean air or clean water is being measured as the measure of the environmental performance by a country. What if we change those categories and look at the environmental performance by counting the carbon footprint of major countries of the world? So National Geographic magazine, published from United States, has come up with another kind of a performance indicator measurement. They call it Green Index, which is the measurement, which is the counting of the carbon footprint of major economies, major countries of the world. So when National Geographic measured the carbon footprints of Canada and US and Mexico and Russia and China and Brazil, France, Germany, United Kingdom, and so on, and Australia, what they found was that India as one of the greenest countries in the world. So when I'm saying India, many things apply to Sri Lanka also, because the cultures are very similar, very less consumption of red meat, very less consumption of beef. Mostly people are, I think, eating mostly rice and lentils and wheat for the most part, probably more rice and lentils even in Sri Lanka and in southern India especially. So many of the cultural habits of Indians and Sri Lankans are very similar, I think, from my perspective. So when I'm saying India, I mean South Asia as the performance of environmental ranking or ranking of environmental performance from this perspective of Green Index. It would perform much better if we just look at the clean air and clean water. Probably European cities or American cities would perform better. But what if we change the categories and look at the carbon footprint? Then we come up much better as countries, as cultures. That's my another perspective of measuring the green societies of South Asian countries such as India and Sri Lanka. If you look at these two charts on your left side, so meat consumption by selected countries. So we see that United States has the largest consumption of meat. 125 kilograms of wheat was consumed in 2013. Almost 100 kg per day per person was consumed per year. Every year, almost 100 kg of meat, mostly red meat, beef, was consumed by an American person. Brazil, almost 100 kg per year, right? Canada is almost touching that, 90 kg per year per person. United Kingdom has almost 80 kg per year per person. China has almost 60 kg per year per person. Even Kenya has almost 20 kilogram per year per person. India has the lowest, compared to all these countries, India has the lowest consumption of red meat. Definitely red meat is much lower, much less consumed in India. And again, when I say India, I'm including Sri Lanka also. So in South Asian countries, once again, Nepal, India, Sri Lanka, and Bhutan, and so on, we see that meat consumption is very less. Because of this less meat consumption, our overall carbon footprint is also much lower than many other European nations, or Australia, or even China, or even Brazil. Now look at the other graph here, the other graph on your bottom of your screen. Passenger car density. So number of passengers a car per 1,000 people. So for every 1,000 people, in Italy we have almost 600 cars per 1,000 people. Right? Germany has 500 cars, France 500, and so on. And when it comes to India, it's almost like 10 or 20, or maybe 20 now. It's this data is from 2009. Now it may be 20-25 cars per 1,000 person. Every 1,000 people have only not more than 25 cars. Again, that applies to Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, and so on. So what we are seeing in these two charts is that the consumption of goods, consumption of natural resources, in terms of meat, in terms of car is made from minerals, that is coming from natural resources also. The consumption is really less compared to many other countries, compared to Italy, Germany, France, Spain, US, Japan, Russia, Brazil, Mexico even, and South Africa, Indonesia, and China. So all of these countries have much higher consumption in terms of car usage and in terms of meat usage. So because of these two parameters, we see that vegetarianism and minimalism means minimum consumption of natural resources, causes us to, us means in terms of South Asian, Indians, Sri Lankans, Bhutanese, Nepalese, our natural tendency is to be environmentalists because we are consuming less. We are causing less harm, less consumption of resources in terms of meat and minerals. So that has coined the term. So, all right, I'll continue. So this is what is called as empty belly environmentalism, where even if people are not very rich, people are not very wealthy, so they might be empty belly as a society, but just because of their less consumption, they're also adding to less carbon footprint compared to many other countries in the world. All right, now let's go to the next screen, which is more brighter now, you know, so I hope this is even clearer now. So what is the reason for many people in India, especially India and Sri Lanka again, because what is the reason that they are not preferring to consume more meat, right? India, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, China, and so on in South Asia. Why are people consuming less consumption of car, even if some people can afford it easily, but they prefer to do, you know, carpooling and prefer not to eat meat, prefer not to kill a cow for their survival, for their food, right? So what is the reason? Reason is that from my perspective, at least, I would argue that because of the influence of Buddhism and Jainism in North India, and which spread across South Asia, people who were doing animal sacrifices, people who were killing animals for religious rituals, they stopped killing those animals and their rituals became more and more vegetarians, less consumption of meat in those rituals, and less consumption of meat even in their diet over centuries, of course. This happened. So Buddha and Mahavir both were contemporary, both came at the same time in North India. That is almost 2,600 years ago, 2,500 years ago, Buddha and Mahavir. And because of their influence, because of their movement, because of their emphasis on their teachings on non-violence, we see the drop in the consumption of meat. So this is a primary reason that over centuries, people became more and more, people in South Asia became vegetarians. And eventually now vegetarianism is spreading even in North India, North America and Europe also. Also, minimalism is also spreading in the United States, but minimalism was practiced by Buddha and Mahavira thousands of years ago, when they shed their clothes, when they renounced their kingdom, their wealth, and following their role models, Mahavir's and Buddha's role models, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, they became monks and nuns, and even lay people, they believed in not consuming more resources, not accumulating more clothing or more natural resources, but to live very simply in a very ascetic lifestyle. So that is the reason that is how we can connect the less carbon footprint, less meat consumption to Buddhism and Jainism. Now, the next screen, I want to show you the cosmology of Jainism. Probably Buddhism cosmology, you all are much more already familiar. But in this presentation, I want to share Jainism's cosmology also. So in Jainism, the universe is seen as in this figure, right? As if a human person is standing and this is his head, this is his belly and the legs, right? So the topmost layer of the universe is called as the Siddha Loka, where whoever has attained liberation, enlightenment, goes and stays there in the pure soul form forever. That's the uppermost layer of the universe. That's called as the Siddha Loka, right? Then below the Siddha Loka are the 8 heavens, very similar to Buddhism and Hinduism also. So Siddha Loka, and then we have 8 heavens. Then comes in the center region, we have the Manushya Loka, which contains 3 continents, 2 oceans, and 3 continents and oceans have animals and humans. So this is the mid level, which is the home of humans and animals. That is the earth. This is the earth where we are all living currently. From Jain perspective, this is the middle region of the universe. And below the earth are the 7 hells, right? Hells are below the earth, below the middle region, which is earth. So Siddhaloka, then heavens, then earth, and then the hells. So according to Jain philosophy, the entire universe of this shape contains infinite number of souls, infinite number of jivas. Now souls or jivas have consciousness, they have energy, and they have bliss, right? And then there are non-living beings also, non-living things also in this universe, and they are mostly known as the karma particles. Karma particles get attached to the soul and they pollute the soul. That is how the souls get polluted, and all beings are trying to get rid of the karma particles. They are trying to become purer and purer. And that's how they want to attain the enlightenment, the liberation. Once they achieve the liberation, they go to the uppermost layer of the universe and they stay forever in that pure form in the Siddhaloka. That is the Jain's philosophy of rebirth and soul and impurity of soul by karma particles, and then becoming purer and purer and achieving liberation. So in this cycle of rebirth, right, one's present can be linked with others' past or future, right? So if a being is born as human being, and if that being has not achieved liberation, that being can be reborn in other species. So all the species in the universe are in this way interconnected through the rebirth and through karma cycle and rebirth cycle. That is how every being in the universe is connected by the cycle of rebirth. Now, so Jain teachers or Jain Tirthankaras, Mahavira, who was the contemporary of the Buddha, as I said, both were born in northern India, and they preached, they propagated their teachings in northern India, and from northern India, of course, their teachings spread all across South Asia and eventually entire Asia. We see Jains today, some ruins of Jain ancient books and ancient monuments, even in Sri Lanka, but also in Thailand at present, in Hong Kong, and of course in India, and Nepal also has a Jain temple. But of course, Buddhism is much more spread in Sri Lanka, especially. I think 80% in Sri Lanka, people in Sri Lanka are Buddhists, and some are Hindu Tamils as well. So the Jain, why did Buddhists and Jain people, or Jainism and Buddhism, why do they emphasize so much on not consuming meat? So here is one answer to that. In Jain taxonomy, all the beings in the universe are categorized according to 5 senses, right? So the beings that have only one sense of touch only are called as the immobile beings. Those are the earth bodies, water bodies, fire bodies, air bodies, Nigoda, which is one cell being only, and plants. These are the beings that have only one sense of touch only. Then if you look at the last line here, fifth point here, the 5 sense beings are the birds, reptiles, mammals, humans, gods, and demons. So these are sentient and non-sentient beings. They have 5 senses: touch, taste, smell, see, and hear. So for human survival, if human is killing a mammal or a reptile or a bird, that human is causing the same kind of a same grave sin as if killing a human being. So to kill a mammal or a reptile or bird was equated with killing a human being. So for human survival, that was prohibited, because you are causing the great sin, great crime by killing a bird, reptile, or mammal for human consumption. Gods and demons are not even present in the earth. Gods are present in the heavens. Demons are present in the hell. So those are out of our reach. But mammals, reptiles, and birds are available on this earth. But they are not supposed to be killed, because those killing would be equal to human killing. So what should humans consume for their survival in this world? So what Jain teachers taught the people is this: that for human survival, you can consume only one sense beings that have only one touch. So you can consume minimum of earth, minimum of water, minimum of fire, air, Nigoda, or plant. Only those things are allowed to be consumed. So that's how people over few years or over few decades or centuries, they all became vegetarians. And not only vegetarians, but even in the consumption of plants, they became extremely cautious. So even among plants, many Jains still do not consume roots or stem of a plant, because if you kill a root of a plant, if you consume the root of a plant, such as carrot or potato or onion or garlic, you're killing the entire plant. So even that is prohibited, that is discouraged by many Jains. So only fruit or fruit of a plant is to be consumed, and root or stem of a plant is not to be consumed. Similarly, earth is not to be consumed recklessly. Water is not to be consumed recklessly. Fire should be consumed carefully. Even air should be consumed very, very carefully. So some Jain monks and nuns, they put a piece of mask in front of their mouth, so as not to consume extra air even, or the microbes that might be present in air should not be consumed even accidentally. So to practice such extreme non-violence, Jains have been practicing vegetarianism. Then in between these two categories, we have touch and taste based beings that are worms, leeches, oysters, and snails. And then the beings that have touch, taste, and smell, those are the insects and spiders. And then beings that have touch, taste, smell, and see, butterflies, flies, and bees. So these three categories, anyway, most humans are not consuming really. So the consumption was really encouraged of only plants, air, fire, water, and earth that have only one sense. So that those are all equated in the same category, but all other mammals, reptiles, and birds were equated with humans. So they were discouraged from human consumption. So this is the basic logic of practicing vegetarianism as coming from Jainism, and that influenced eventually both, Hindus and rest of the people in South Asia, and people became vegetarians. And that is one of the main reasons that our carbon footprint is much less compared to many other European countries and North American countries as well. All right, let's go to the next slide now. So Jainism in this way can also be described by 3 A's: ahimsa, which means non-violence. So greatest dharma for one's karma is non-violence. If we don't cause violence to other beings in the universe, in nature, we are automatically being eco-friendly. If we are not killing animals, if we're not killing mammals, we're not killing reptiles, we are obviously being eco-friendly friends of nature, not causing any violence or harm to other beings in nature. So that's already making Jain philosophy is already helping becoming eco-friendly. Second is aparigraha. So because, as I mentioned in the beginning, minimalism or non-accumulation of resources was also taught in Jainism over thousands of years. So that less accumulation of natural resources also means that you're being more dharmic towards nature. You're being eco-friendly because you're not wasting natural resources. You're not unnecessarily accumulating more minerals or more plant-based products even in your house because you're going for minimal ideas of consumption. So instead of 4 cars, maybe 1 car. Instead of 10 shirts, maybe 1 shirt. So less consumption, less violence, less harm done to nature by practicing non-accumulation. Then Jainism also has one of the main philosophies of Jainism is called as Anekantvad or Anekantwada, which means many-pointedness. This is explained by a story of an elephant, which is being touched by 6 blind people. And as they touch different parts of the elephant, they think that elephant religious leaders even have promoted not violence against each other, but more debates and discussions among each other so that they can all combine different ideas, different point of views, and can find some similarities and can coexist with harmony over thousands of years instead of going and killing each other and doing violence to each other. So these are some of the main points of Jain philosophy: non-violence, non-accumulation, and many-pointedness. Now I'm showing you some of the more examples of how Jain teachers have lived their own life over thousands of years. So 22nd major teacher of Jainism was Naminath, and Parshnath was 23rd main teacher. Mahavira was the 24th teacher. All of these had responded to some animal slaughter, a snake, burning of a snake. They all respond to cattle slaughter also. They are all very moved by any violence that is being done to animals or even to reptile. And that changes their life. They are so full of compassion when animals are being hurt that compassion changes their life forever. They renounce their wealth, they renounce their kingdom and become monks, become ascetics. And then that's what they teach for the rest of their lives. That is how they live their life. And that's what they teach also. So Mahavira, for example, teaches that trees are inherently valuable in Acharang Sutra, chapter 2. Then he says vegetation has life just as humans. So imagine more than 2,500 years from now, long before science had discovered vegetation has life, Mahavira had already proclaimed that vegetation has life. Similarly, he says souls render service to one another. This interdependence, harmony, coexistence. We should live like bees in this world. Bees, behavior of the bees is that as they accumulate, as they collect nectar from different flowers, they do not cause any harm to flower. They do not attack the flower. They do not kill the flower. They just collect minimal nectar from each flower. Similarly, we should collect whatever only the minimal bare necessity that is needed from nature, only that much we should accumulate from nature. We should not cause any harm to any tree or any natural resource. So forests, and then other saying goes that forests are like saints. We should plant trees for good karma. These are all coming from Jain texts and Jain major teachers, the role models, the Tirthankaras, Naminath, Parshnath, Mahavira. Again, Mahavira was the contemporary of the Buddha. Parshnath was even before Mahavira and Buddha, and Naminath was even before Parshnath. So these are the role models. These are the teachings coming from Jainism. Now, what about Jain householders? Those who are not ascetics. So even Jain householders, those are not ascetic, those are not monks or nuns, even they have preferred to practice non-violent professions. So you will see Jain householders over thousands of years, they will be doing some trading, banking, commercial activities, clerical activities, diamond trade, traditional medicines, arts and crafts, or they will be working for government or ruler. They will be involved in textile or machine manufacturing, based on machines and so on, publishing in media also, or education. But you will rarely see a Jain person causing harm to nature by trading charcoal or timber, or pulling carts with animals, or doing alcohol trading, or slave trading, weapons trading, poisons trading, farming of sugar canes or seeds, selling firearms, or even constructing lakes. All these were prohibited for Jain householders, Jain lay people for thousands of years. They preferred less violent professions. In the left column, they did not prefer the violent professions that are shown in the right column. All right, now comparing Jain philosophy with some of the contemporary Western philosophers. So Brian Swim, for example, says that material objects leads to consumerism, consumerism leads to depression. That can be compared with the non-accumulation philosophy of Jain text that I already shared in very briefly. Then Brian Swim says that Earth is alive and it responds to our presence. That goes very well with Jain philosophy, which says that Earth is also alive. Earth bodies also have souls. Similarly, he says that we should celebrate the universal celebration of origin. We should have, because we all are coming out of Big Bang. Big Bang, one event is connecting all the universal beings. So we are all kind of siblings, because we all are generated by the same event, Big Bang, that happened probably billions of years back. So that also goes well with Jain respect for all jivas, because every being in the universe has soul. So every being has the right to live. So we should not cause any harm unnecessarily to any being, especially beings that have 5 senses. For our survival, we do need some resources. So we use only minimal, we make minimal use of only one sense beings, not the 5 sense beings, or 2, 3, 4, or 5 sense beings, only one sense being. All right, so then Thomas Berry and David Abram say similar things. They say that world is a communion of subjects, not a collection of objects, says Thomas Berry. That compares well with Jain view of soul in all beings. David Abram says diversity of local forms should be recognized. That goes very well with Jain. It's minds. We should not force change on people, but we should inspire them by changing their mind, by changing their thinking. Trees as inherently valuable for beauty and strength, as we saw in Jain, coming from Jain text also. David Abram says role of senses recognized, and that goes very well with the empiricism in Tatwar Sutra by Uma Swati. That role of senses is equally important to understand the world. That goes well with empiricism. Now, there was a Jain saint from 1867 to 1901. He lived from 1867 to 1901. His name was Srimad Rajchandra in Gujarat, western part of India. And he became a kind of a spiritual guru of Mahatma Gandhi. When Mahatma Gandhi was living in South Africa as a lawyer, he was practicing law in South Africa from 1891 to 95. So for almost 6 years, 5-6 years, Mahatma Gandhi had many curiosities, questions. So he writes letters to this Jain guru, and in turn, he's inspired by Jain philosophical ideas such as non-accumulation, non-violence, and so on, which I already shared earlier in this presentation. So that changes Gandhi's life forever, and Gandhi's life then becomes a life that is exemplified by truth, non-violence, simplicity, celibacy, self-reliance, and austerities. Gandhi's life itself can be seen as an ecological treatise where he consumes only small meals of nuts and fruits. He goes on for these silence-based vows where he's not uttering even a single word for many, many days. He conducts these daily walking-based meditations that is very common in Buddhism and Jainism also. He is very careful in cultivating small with big. Even a small animal is equally important to Gandhi as he's dealing with national issues and his non-violent fight against the British. He's making his own clothes. He was spinning wheel all the time, but not out of hatred the mill workers, and his abhorrence of waste. He's very careful to not waste even a small piece of pencil. So he taught all these environmental teachings by his own life, without calling himself as an environmentalist. Just by his own life, he taught all these things to thousands of people in India at the time, and now across the world, Gandhi's teachings are very dearly revered and followed and practiced. So by this linkage of Mahavira's teachings coming to Mahatma Gandhi, and from Mahatma Gandhi going to Dr. Martin Luther King in America and to Nelson Mandela in South Africa, we see that the tradition of nonviolence and environmental friendliness has continued for thousands of years within South Asia, but also from South Asia now to South Africa and even to North America and so on. This is the tradition of nonviolence that is now influencing the world through Mahatma Gandhi and now to the entire world. Jains in America and Buddhists and Hindus also in America have done many things that are very interesting that can be called as environmental friendly. For example, many of the temples are now have installed solar panels. They have replaced their fossil fuel based energy devices in many parts of America. They are protecting and defending and supporting cattle sanctuaries. So, protection of animals is very central to many South Asians, and that is happening even in North America now. They're promoting vegetarianism even in America, and even veganism also in America and elsewhere in the world. So this is what I dealt with in my latest book, where how Jains came and how they built several temples, and now many universities are also teaching Jainism, and how Jains have also been part of the diamond trade and healthcare and art history. These are some of the major saints that I'm covering in my upcoming book, my next book, in which I will be writing the biographies of these Jain saints. That is all I want to share. I would love to take more questions from you, and we can then discuss more topics from Buddhism and Jainism based on your questions. So I keep my presentations short and welcome your questions more, so that we can discuss further. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. And now the forum is open for the discussion. If you have anything to get clarified or to ask from the questions, you can put directly your questions to Professor.
Professor, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Professor. Thank you very much for your very enlightening speech, Professor. And we are proud to be again people who are practicing Buddhism in Sri Lanka as well. So, Professor, thank you very much for your enlightening speech. I'm Roshan here. Professor, I would like to now say that that now I'm drawing a parallel between the Western ideology and our ideology here in South Asia. Professor, like, do you see necessarily a conflict, or can we merge and have a kind of a common area? What do you think, Professor? Your greatest insight is very highly appreciated, Professor.
Right. So, no, I think we can see overlap, as I try to show even in my presentation, these, especially the philosophies of Brian Swim and Thomas Berry and David Abram, that can be compared with many ideas in Jainism, Buddhism, and Hinduism. And we need not form more boundaries and barriers. I think it's time to break the barriers and see common elements. And now many, even in North America, where I am right now, I'm in Dallas right now in Texas. And many people even in America are turning towards veganism, vegetarianism, even minimalism. Minimalism means to keep very simple homes, no furniture, not much furniture, very small homes, just as we have in South Asia, right? We don't believe in filling our homes with large furnitures, and we are happy even with small houses. And even 3 generations are living together even today in South, I'm sure in Sri Lanka, as true in India also. So small homes, but more people in that small space. That is how for thousands of years, millions of people have lived in South Asia. That is happening even in the United States now, in North America. Small homes, less furniture, less meat, and definitely less and less red meat. Red meat just in last year alone, especially when the pandemic hit North America, in United States, we see a huge drop in the consumption of red meat in America. People are really turning towards plant-based food, which is very common in South Asia. So it seems like more and more things can be learned and practiced coming from South Asia, but now being practiced in North America.
Very happy to hear, Professor, because I think if they are, we can, as you said, we can learn from each other and practice the best practices, and Professor, be successful in our lives. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you, Professor Roshan.
Thank you, Professor. Really insightful. And it was a great speech, Professor. Comment also, not a question. A great speech and learned a great deal of information, Professor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, madam. Good morning, everybody. I'm highly impressed by the ideology and the ideas that you have put forth. I am going by in the Indian context. I have a few things to ask you.
Sure.
Although you gave everything about Buddhism, Jainism, and Gandhi, you compared things.
Mm-hmm.
But my point here is, if we very specifically put ourselves into the Indian context, I'm just giving you my problems. Like now, I need to understand these things. In the Indian context, in Buddhism, it had almost disappeared. Okay, but now it's gaining a momentum. Now it's gaining a momentum.
Yes, correct.
But unfortunately, what I tell you is it's gaining a momentum only by the downtrodden and the Dalits. This is what is happening now. Whereas when you started talking about this Buddhism, Jainism, or Gandhian principle for that matter, Gandhi, of course, let us keep for the time being, Buddhism and all these principles are for every common man. All these principles are for every common man. But why? We know that why it has failed and there was a gap for all these days. But why this momentum already, all started again? What could be the reason for this? And that too, very particularly from these downtrodden and Dalits, it has started. And we still believe in that. I don't know why this kind of mindset has been coming in the people of so-called downtrodden or the Dalits and all. In the Indian context, I'm very particular about this.
Yes, you're right about that Buddhism kind of vanished from, especially from India. But the reason for that are multifold. I've written a paper on this very topic, following the leads by Professor Lalmani Joshi and Professor Robert Thurman, who was my professor at Columbia University in New York. Many internal reasons and external reasons. Buddhists then, just as they left India, they moved towards Tibet and Sri Lanka, where you all are, and Bhutan, and Nepal, and Myanmar, and China, Japan, Taiwan. Buddhism is now entire Asia. It became a blessing for the entire Asia, even as it left India. But you're also right, as Dalai Lama came back, not just, you referred to political Buddhism or the Dalit Buddhism that was brought in by, that was restarted or reinvigorated by Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar. But Buddhism also made its comeback in a huge way by when Dalai Lama came back to India, when he had to escape Tibet and came to India in Himachal Pradesh, where he still lives. And he was embraced with such open arms by Indians. They had no animosity against Buddhism of any kind. And Dalai Lama is our honored guest. Now I'm speaking like as an Indian, I guess. Dalai Lama is loved by Indians. Dalai Lama has received the highest regard, highest respect. My own dream is to go to the Dharamshala once, also to come to Sri Lanka once, to pay my tribute, pay my respects to all the Buddhist temples in Sri Lanka and in Dharamshala.
Sorry for the interruption. Sorry for the interruption. I had an opportunity to meet him and to touch his feet, and I could get his blessings. We had invited him for one of our university convocations.
Right. So yes. So I'm waiting for my darshan of His Holiness Dalai Lama. But I was recently, as I was mentioning, just last month I was at Bodh Gaya in Bihar. So also I have been to many Buddhist places. Even today in India, many people are not aware of, but Buddhism is thriving and flourishing in many temples and monuments across India. I went to Dehradun, flourishing Buddhist presence, thriving Buddhist temple in Dehradun. I went to Canary Caves in the heart of Mumbai. There is an excellent, exquisite, ancient caves called Canary Caves in Mumbai. Most Mumbai people have no idea. And there is a thriving Buddhist stupa also in Mumbai. That was founded by Goenka ji. by his Vipassana movement. There's a Vipassana movement that Goenkaji was in Myanmar, and he brought back also. So Buddhism has been brought back to India, not just by Ambedkar. Of course, that is kind of a political form of Buddhism, but also by Dalai Lama. And then let's not forget the third major figure that has reinvigorated Buddhism in India, that is Goenkaji, by his Vipassana movement. So his stupa is now thriving also in Mumbai. Then Ajanta Ellora have endless stories of Buddhism and Buddhist paintings in Ajanta especially. Ellora has more Jainism based and Hinduism based, but Ajanta is thriving with Buddhism. And in Odisha, in Bhubaneswar, who could think of Odisha and Buddhism? But when I went to Odisha, Bhubaneswar, a couple of years back, there is a large Buddhist stupa, and where I was just thrilled to see the white stupa, and just as if it is. I was also in Beijing, China, where there are these large Buddhist stupas. Very similar stupa is also in Odisha. Then recently also I was at Nalanda University, which is the entire Nalanda University was, the ancient Nalanda University was the major Buddhist learning center, where university had Buddhist temples inside the campus. But even the new university now that is being built and that is being developed by Indian government, and other governments are also supporting, other Asian countries are also supporting it. That is also being modeled after the ancient Nalanda University. And there is another stupa, also Buddhist stupa, near Nalanda University, that is also being funded by, supported by other countries, and Indian government is also supporting it, developing it. So Buddhist stupas, Buddhist monuments, temples, caves are thriving and flourishing in many, many parts of India. Not very popular for some reasons, but at least I have been fortunate enough to practice and to have darshan of these holy sites of Buddha. Kushinagar is another major place where Buddha had his last breath, and Kushinagar is now a thriving tourist and pilgrimage center in India. Sarnath is another place near Banaras where Buddha gave his first sermon, the Deer Park sermon. That is highly developed place in Sarnath, in UP, in Uttar Pradesh. And so many places these are now being developed as Buddhist circuit in India. So Lumbini in Nepal, Bodh Gaya in Bihar, Kushinagar in UP, and Sarnath in UP also. These are the major Buddhist circuit places. But in addition, many other places, Mumbai and Odisha and elsewhere, Dehradun and Dharamshala, and so many of these places, Ajanta Ellora should also be called as part of the Buddhist circuit. With more understanding, more acceptance, more teachings of the Buddha in form of school curriculum, college curriculum especially. So I'm teaching right now as a professor at Flame University in Pune, where I'm starting a new course called World Religions, in which all the religions of the world in their academic form will be taught to students. So as they understand the great teachings of Buddhism and other religions, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, everything, Judaism, Taoism, Confucianism, I think we should really inspire our students to take these courses that are called as world religions or Asian religions, so that we get to know the basics of all these religions, religious traditions, which we are lacking as of now. I think we know very little about even Hindu teachings in India, even Buddhist teachings, Jain teachings, Sikh teachings. Judaism, Christianity, Islam are just known by their names only. Very little is known about their histories or their teachings and so on. So world religions-based courses are very popular in America, not so popular in South Asia for some reasons. But now my effort is to popularize these courses, and these curricula should be changed so that we get to know the basics, and then it's up to us which tradition we want to follow, practice, and maybe mixture of all major teachings we can follow and inspire our students also to follow. I think it can be a very healthier society than we have. Thank you for
yes, sir. Thank you very much for giving the explanations. We do have. I'm from Mysore in Karnataka.
Okay.
We do have one beautiful place, a temple built by these Buddhist monks, which is just 100 kilometers away. It's called a Golden Temple. So I wish.
His microphone became mute. Yeah. Yes. I'm aware of the Buddhist community in Karnataka also. In fact, I have a Buddhist monk friend in Dallas, who got his Buddhist training in Karnataka. I think you're in the same place. So yes, Karnataka also has a thriving Buddhist tradition, Buddhist community, even in Karnataka. So yes, Buddhism is flourishing in India. There is no problem. There is no threat to Buddhist in India, at least. And of course,
I just wanted to know, as I say, I'm a psychologist basically. I just wanted to know why all of a sudden this again it started showing some hopes in the present society. That's what I was thinking, like, it's generating hopes in us that yes, there is something which we can think of and believe and accept things
yes,
like.
Yeah, I
So
think
that is
Einstein is believed to have said that if he would like to be reborn, he would like to come back as a Buddhist. Because Buddhism, and I would agree with that, Buddhism, I think, is one of the most rational religious traditions in the world. Buddha himself, almost everybody, every scholar, every practitioner also would agree that Buddha taught his everything like a scientist, like a physician. He didn't say anything that without a logic, without an argument, without a logical support, without a rationale. So that makes his teachings very appealing to, especially to youngsters. So that is I think the broad-based appeal that Buddhism has. Even in North America, many people are turning towards Buddhism, and that is a very healthy trend, I think, from my perspective.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Are there any questions? I think Professor Vijay Singh, you want to ask something? Yeah.
Yes, so Professor, thank you so much for your impressive and thought-provoking presentation. So what is your argument with the biological and the ecosystem balance concept, scientifically proved through the performance of then the food web and food chain concepts? Because different creatures are competing with each other, so that due to that, so the competition, some creatures would become the fabulous. So see how the vegetation performs, creating different layers. So they're competing with each other for different resources. Then what is the environmental ethical aspects? But that ecosystem balance is naturally created. Are we in a position to be against to this, then the balancing environment? What is your argument with the ethical dimensions behind this matter?
Yes, that balance, we all have to be careful in maintaining this balance. There are multiple studies done by scientists, environmentalists, researchers. There are multiple documentaries now. Almost every month, I see a new report in major American newspapers that meat consumption is the #1 reason to disturb this balance. Meat consumption, what happens is, when humans have this appetite or addiction towards red meat especially, the red meat has to come from cattle, right? That cattle have to be fed the food. That food is the food comes from farming, right? Now for farming, you need land. For land, they destroy the rainforests, especially in South America, the tropical rainforests that are called as the lungs of the planet. So for human appetite or addiction towards red meat, you're causing the harm, destruction, violence of the lungs of the planet. So because of the red meat appetite, we are ending up in the scarcity of water, because that water is needed for these farms that grow food for cattle that is fed to the humans. So water scarcity, world hunger, loss of the tropical forests, and millions of tons of fossil fuel is wasted just in transportation for food for animals, from animals to meat, from meat industry to human kitchens for North Americans who need this meat-based food 3 times a day, twice a day, or even thrice a day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, everything is red meat. That is the #1 reason, one of the biggest reasons, if not #1, one of the biggest reasons for climate change, for world hunger, for water scarcity, or as you mentioned, loss of the balance of these natural resources. So that is where we have to really focus, and people are becoming aware. As I said, last year alone, United States people really dropped their red meat consumption drastically, which is a very healthy trend. Thank you for your question.
Yes, actually, so because I have a doubt of the arguments of the case, so we as humans can follow the ethical dimensions of the environmental aspects, but how about the other creatures? Then whether they are ready to maintain that kind of system, because that is naturally created anyhow. then the ecosystem balance is naturally created. So we as humans, as we have the capability of thinking, so the thinking of the future generation as well as then the minimizing the distortion, so the then the destroying part of the planet. So likewise, we as human, we can think, but how about the other creatures? Then the behavior in the ecosystem, they are competing with each other. So you can see even the natural vegetation, even though we consider as human, according to your argument, but they are also competing with each other, not allowing for the minor plants or the scrubs to grow up. So the competing with particularly for the temperature and energy. So the extracting the mineral resources from the earth. So that ecosystem is balanced in such a way. So even though we are ready, so can we, the control the system. That is my point of argument with the case, having some sort of doubt whether the ethical dimensions of the environment so that can be maintained by all the creatures of the environment.
Yes, see, the biggest threat to the balance of nature or biggest threat to climate, no other species is any threat to the climate or nature or the planet. Only humans are the threat. Because only humans, even though we might not even have, we love to consume. Those habits are causing the damage to the planet. No other species is doing any threat or any damage to the planet. They are living peacefully. It is we who go out and hunt all these animals, kill all those animals, and that is where we have to change. Other species are doing fine. Other species not. If humans disappear from this planet will thrive. Planet will flourish, right? But even if insects are no longer present on this planet, the entire ecosystem will collapse. So only threat to the planet is human beings, no other species, because we go out of control, we behave so recklessly. That is what was to be disciplined thousands of years back by Buddha and Mahavira and other many other saints, and other religious traditions have also taught these self-control, self-restraint based practices. Discipline in food. Food was one of the biggest focus in many traditions, not just in South Asia. So to change food is to we are what we become. We become what we eat, right? So to improve our food habits will also improve our thinking habits, living habits, and our habits that connect with nature. This is where the balance is. So we have to change that we want to see in the world. Again, as like Gandhi said. So if we change our food habits, dietary habits, we will have a healthier bodies, healthier minds, and healthier planet. So that is where the crux of the teachings of all these great leaders are. Thank you.
Yes, is there any questions? And even you can drop your questions to the chat box.
Professor, I'm Roshan again. May I, Professor, ask you another small concern? Okay,
sure.
Yeah, Professor. Now, Professor, in Buddhism, we speak about this middle path. We are, as a majority of Buddhists, we don't go for these extremes. Professor, now you talked about minimalism and that kind of, and in certain aspects, we see some people going to, even in environment protection, even in sometimes they go aggressive, they go to it's kind of activism, and sometimes it's called environmental terrorism. So, Professor, what kind of, now, because we in Buddhism promote mostly the middle path, so we don't go to extremes. So, Professor, what do you think about that aspect?
Yes, to stop violence against planet, it would not be ethical to cause violence towards violent human beings, right? Buddhist and Jain at non-violent based approach, or even Gandhian approach, would be non-violent based approach. So it is the way to inspire them to stop their violence is to try to change their hearts, change their minds, not becoming violent towards those people. That would be my little 2 cents that yes, we have to do it non-violent. If we are adopting means of violence to to bring up change in the world, that would defeat the purpose. That would not solve the problem. That would only aggravate the problem. Right? That would be my response.
Gandhi's great leader, Gandhi's approach, isn't it?
Exactly. No violence. Yeah, violence can never be appreciated in any form. Yes. So, and don't justify the means. Your means don't justify.
And Professor, how about the middle path? What do you think about that? Not to go to extremes and going to the middle path?
Right. So, yeah, middle path was taught by the Buddha, where he was doing all these extreme austerities to his body, and he gets this insight that don't torture your own body also, and choose the middle path. And so, yes, middle path is always better to, even for achieving enlightenment as Buddha practiced. But middle path has become like a buzzword. Middle path is also to be used, I think, very carefully. It was a definite context in which Buddha used.
It's a lifestyle.
So let's stick to that original definition of the middle path, and let's just change ourselves before worrying about changing others. I think. Am I fully non-violent? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm still struggling to become fully non-violent in speech, in thoughts, in actions. Right. So I think that's where I would like to start.
Thank you, Professor. Very enlightening. It's really great insights, Professor. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Is there any other questions? Right. And Professor Jain, thank you very much for your very factual presentation. And as an academic in Asian tradition, personally, I would like to appreciate and thanks to you, that is, for our Asian philosophies, you always try to bring to the Western world, and you are making a new combination with the new thoughts in a Western tradition with our old or the Asian philosophies. And the other thing is, within the Asian philosophy, there is a huge norms and theories and understanding as well the arguments on eco-philosophies, and you always working to bring out that and to promote to the world. So thank you very much. And the other thing, I'm very much happy because even though you are having many difficulties in last few weeks, but you gave a time for us, and thank you very much. And now I would like to invite lecturer Nadisha Beratna, and she is the coordinator. She is the secretary of our GreenHUB to give a word of thanks to you. Nadisha, I think she's available.
Madam, thank you very much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Now we are going to wind up the session, Dharma and Environmental Ethics from the Buddha and Mahavira to Gandhi, conducted by project number 4 of the GreenHUB, Environmental Ethics and Wellbeing. So on behalf of the GreenHUB, I would like to give my special thanks to Professor Pankaj Jain, Head, Indic Study Initiative, Flame University, Pune, India, and founder, co-chair, Department of Philosophy and Religion, University of North Texas, USA, for taking the time to speak to us today on the very important topic, Dharma and Environmental Ethics, from the Buddha and Mahavira to Gandhi. I deeply appreciate the wonderful presentation you made today, and we really enjoy every bit of your presentation. Then I'd like to give a special thank to our session moderator, Dr. Asha Nimali Fernando, who is the coordinator of the project number 4 of the GreenHUB, the Environmental Ethics and Wellbeing. Also, I'd like to thank the chair of GreenHUB, Professor Shiranta Hinkenda, the main coordinator, Dr. Shanta Vijay Singha, and all the project coordinators, academic and non-academic staff. Finally, thank to all participants for joining us and sharing your valuable ideas. Once again, on behalf of GreenHUB, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, University of Sri Jayewardenepura, I'd like to give a big thank to all of you. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Is there any student who thanks for the professor or any participant?
Yeah, actually, I would like to extend my heartiest thanks to Professor Pankaj for your immense contribution on conducting this lecture. So I think it's really helpful, and yeah, it's so great for me. Thank you, Professor.
Okay,
Thank you,
Professor.
everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much. And really, we will hope to invite you for Sri Lanka after settle down these issues,
Sure.
right?
I
Because
would
you
love
told
to.
me you like to visit and
Yes,
see the
yes.
Buddhist heritage in
Yes.
Sri Lanka.
Yes, of course, yes.
Thank you,
And
sir.
also I shared the channel of my YouTube, so you can subscribe youtube.com/Pankaj Jain India, where all my lectures, many other scholars' lectures are also available. youtube.com/Pankaj Jain India. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, okay, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Professor.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you.